CFNY 102.1.
The spirit of radio.
You're listening to the Liz Janik Radio Show.
Liz Janik is this year's recipient of the Rosalie Award at Canadian Music Week. The award honors women like Rosalie Tremblay who have made significant contributions to the radio broadcast industry, trailblazing a path for those that may follow. Liz Janik is without a doubt one of those amazing women. Her many achievements include on-air success, championing local musical talent, and becoming an innovative and respected programmer. She is nationally recognized in the U.S. for being an authority on alternative formats and for using research to develop brand new successful formats. Liz, what first sparked your interest in radio?
May, I think I was born in love with radio and with music because I don't remember a time when they were not an important part of my life. As I started to grow up, my local radio station had a weekend teen show, and I got to volunteer on that. So that was my first taste of actually being on the air. But I also fell in love with stations like CKOC, where I used to listen to Dave Charles as the on-air person. And in the summertime, we'd go to Lake Huron, and everyone on Lake Huron listened to the Big 8 out of Windsor, Detroit. And I didn't know at that time, but the person who was picking all that fabulous music was Rosalie Tremblay.
Wow, this is a full circle moment.
It is.
So Liz, you ended up at the legendary Spirit of Radio CFNY. What path took you there?
Well, it was kind of like a backdoor into the radio station because at the time they hired me, they would not hire women on the air. They had had a period where they were known as Chick FM and had only women on the air. And that pilot project failed so miserably, they never wanted women on the air again. But they were okay with me writing and producing the classical music show. And because of my violin training, I was able to do that. And that's how I started at CFNY for probably a couple of years. When the ownership changed, new people came into the building, David Marsden, for example, and I decided to throw my hat in the ring for an on-air position. By that time, I was a single mom. I had a beautiful young boy, and my parents were helping me raise him. So they said to me, "You've been fooling around with this radio thing long enough. It's about time you got a full-time job or stick with this." I had a position as manager of a distribution company at the time for microcomputers. So we made a pact. My parents said, "We give you to January 1st, 1980. On December 31st, 1979, David Marsden phoned and gave me the all-night show. And so I said goodbye to the corporate thing, and I said hello to radio, and I've been there ever since.
Wow, Dave, timing is everything.
Timing is everything.
It's like it was meant to be. So what stands out to you from those wonderful years at CFNY?
Well, CFNY through the 80s was a magical place, and I shared a lot of those magical moments. One of the first things that come to my mind is being at home and hearing Rush say they were listening to my show when they decided to write the song, The Spirit of Radio. It was one of those magic moments where the lyrics of a song match what was happening in their world. It was one of those synchronistic kind of things. So that I took as a kiss from the cosmos that I was on the right track, that even making next to no money and being a single mom, I was on the right track. As the years rolled by, I eventually met my husband over the air. He and his friends in Waterloo were booking bands that were part of the CFNY playlist. And so I got to meet Peter Goodwin, and it turned out that he was also a radio guy, a news guy. And, well, one thing led to another, and within a few months we were married. And so David Marsden suggested that we work on this concept for a show called Streets of Ontario, featuring local Canadian independent artists. And that began an 8-year project of love for us, that we got to showcase so many of these brand new bands that were now able to record and produce their own albums because of the changes in technology. And as a result, we eventually started writing for a North American trade paper covering the local indie scene. And CFNY made me eventually Director of Canadian Music Development, which was a brand new position created just for me. As a result of that led me into producing the Great Ontario Talent Search, where we had more than 800 submissions. and also the Casbys, the 1988 Casbys, which were so much fun. It was the year that the station decided to take the Casbys back to their roots, back to the street. So we had an amazing radio show out of the government with great artists like National Velvet, and we had Andrew Cash from L'Étranger was there, and the Shuffle Demons were busking for us outside. Those were some of the highlights that come to my mind from my time at CFNY.
Now, eventually, things changed at CFNY, and you moved on, and you ended up making your way into consulting. Was that a deliberate move?
Oh, that was another one of those Hail Mary passes from the cosmos. I thought my career was over. Here I was in a format alternative nobody thought had a future, and I was a girl. And there just still, at that time, late 80s, there weren't that many women on the air. But there were new radio licenses being applied for, and the top consulting company in Canada, Joint Communications, with Dave Charles and John Paracol and David Oakes, were looking for somebody to help them with their application for a new FM frequency. So they hired me for my street cred, and in working with me for a few months, they realized that I was a total radio head, and they decided to invest in me and train me how to become a consultant. And that started me traveling back and forth across Canada working with clients. And eventually they added research to my training, and that's what took me into the United States. I have a real gift for looking at numbers and hearing formats through research. So we started developing brand new formats in the United States. We launched Hot AC first in Houston, Texas. We put on a hot alternative station out of Chicago. And one of the most surprising research finds was discovering that New York City was ready for the very first ever hip-hop radio station, which was launched in 1993. So I had some amazing experiences working with Joint, and when they reconfigured how they're structured, they provided me with an opportunity to start my own company. And I started working in the States, first in Windsor, Detroit with 89X. Did fantastic job turning them around. Then into Buffalo with The Planet, where we put local music back on the airwaves in Buffalo and launched the Goo Goo Dolls in their career throughout North America. But I think the real turning point for me came with a project out of Des Moines, Iowa, where we launched a station in September. And 3 months later, the KKDM was the #1 alternative station in the United States. It held the position of the top station in the format, with more than 100 stations in that format, for more than 2 years. And once you're #1 in America, there's no turning back.
But you did turn back. You came back to Canada. Why?
Because this is the most beautiful country in the whole world. I've had the opportunity to see it from the Arctic Circle to Victoria to tiny places on the East Coast. It's the most beautiful country. And in the United States, consolidation broke radio. We went from having exciting stations to having stations without any people in the building. So Canada provided some opportunities where the United States had, especially after 9/11, had started to close its doors. So here in Canada, in more recent years, I've had the fun. I can't believe I'm calling CRTC applications fun, but I had the pleasure of working with some great teams doing applications across the country. And perhaps my most favorite project in recent years was working with Gary Slade on the launch of the Sirius satellite channels here in Canada. He put me in charge of the 100% Canadian channel, which was called Iceberg 95. And that was so much fun rediscovering how much great Canadian music we have here in Canada. We have come of age.
So we've been reviewing your past successes. What excites you about the future of broadcast?
Well, I see it as more than broadcast. I see it as multiple platforms. The new technology, while radio will always be a stalwart, I believe, the new technology offers creative people, and I think at the end of the day, I consider myself a content creator, offers us more platforms to put our ideas out, whether it's something spoken word or photographs or even little videos. So I'm very excited about the new technology and the fact that creative people can reach their audiences directly without having to go through third parties.
Liz, all the best to you.
Thank you, May.
Congratulations to this year's Trailblazer and Rosalie Award winner, ladies and gentlemen, Liz Janik.